The high point of Yom Kippur is Ne'ilah. The culmination of all the Chagim in Tishrei is Simchas Torah. The culmination of Chanukah is Zos Chanukah, the last night. After a week of lighting, a week of singing, we're to really try and understand what it is that Chanukah adds to our lives year after year. So tonight we'll try talking some deeper stuff. Let's begin with understanding the entire Second Temple era. Bit of an introduction. We understand, the Rambam writes, one of the Ikrei Amunah, one of the foundations, is understanding that everything that exists only through the existence of Hashem himself. What keeps all of finite existence alive is Ritzono Yisbarach, his will. The will of Hashem is machayed, it gives life to everything that exists. In a way that runs parallel to the human being himself, we understand that within us there's the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, the animal soul, the spirit, and the divine soul. As a parallel, everything exists through Hashem's Ratzon in the form of Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. The Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of the Jewish people was the Beis HaMikdash. The Nefesh was the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the altar. All the sacrifices were brought. Can't get closer to an animal soul than that. The apparent divine presence there was the fire that came down from heaven, remained all the time. And in the first Beis HaMikdash, the only reason that they put wood on the Mizbeach, because it was a mitzvah to hide the miracle. But the fire really devoured all of the sacrifices on its own, because the intensity of the fire, it was revutza kari. It was like a lion. The Ruach, that was the menorah. The Ner Ma'aravi, depending on which direction the menorah was in the Beis HaMikdash, there are those who say that it was either parallel or perpendicular, meaning that it runs south, north-south, did it run west-east? If it was perpendicular to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, then it was the one that was closest to it, the western one, where they used to light it and it just remained lit, and they took fire from that to light the menorah, to kindle the menorah the next night. It just never stopped burning. According to the other opinion, the one that it runs parallel, it was the middle one, where all of the fires face towards it, and the middle one bent towards the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Holy of Holies, and that too, that was there all the time. That was the Ruach. And then the Neshama was in the Holy of Holies. The Ark with the Luchos, the tablets. For those who are familiar with Tanya, in Perek Nun Gimel at the very end, the Tanya describes the Luchos in Bayis Rishon. The Luchos were there in Bayis Rishon, based on the Pasuk, Valuchos Ma'aseh Elokim Heim Avamichtav Michtav Elokimhu. It was from an upper sphere. It wasn't even disguised as something from down here. It was totally miraculous. Totally miraculous. The letters went through and through, even though on each side they were the same thing. In other words, it was you would be able to read it on all sides, and yet it went straight through. How's that possible? Not in our world. He doesn't mention it, but we know that the Mokom Orom, the place that the ark was, Eino Min HaMinyan, if you measure to the ark and from the ark, and then you measured the entire Kodesh HaKodashim, you got the same distance. The ark itself took up no space. That was the neshama. It was from the upper spheres. This was what really gave life to the Jewish people in the time of the first temple, the first Beis HaMikdash. In the second Beis HaMikdash, we didn't have the Aron. We didn't have the neshama. As far as the fire on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, it was there, but it was revutza kekelev, it says. It wasn't like a lion, it was more like a dog. They had to keep bringing wood to keep the fire going. That fire was insufficient in devouring the sacrifices. And what's with the Ner Ma'aravi, the fire in the menorah? In the Second Temple era, we read that up until the days of Shimon HaTzadik, which is the end of the Great Assembly, it was on all night, all day, time to kindle it, it was still there. After that, sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. It depended on the state of the Jewish people. Which means that the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama in the Second Temple era was not provided by heaven. So what was it? What was it? What we see in the menorah, it was man. It was man's action. The symbol of the Second Temple era. We read it in this week's Haftorah. What is the menorah? And what does Hashem say about it? Tells Zerubbabel, Lo v'chayil v'lo v'koach ki im beruchi, my ruach. The symbol of the Second Temple era was the menorah, and it's referred to as ruchi, the ruach. See, in the Second Temple era, what kept it going, the Rotzon Hashem, that divine will to give it existence, to give the Jewish people continuity, it had to be inspired by us. It had to be inspired by us, so that when we were all right, it worked. The Ner Ma'aravi kept burning. When we weren't, it didn't. The Gra writes, the Ruach is man. The Nefesh is created the way it is. You're given your DNA from birth. That's your animal soul. You're given your DNA from birth. You have nothing to do with it. Your neshama, Elakai neshama shenasata b'torahi. You are given a neshama from heaven at birth. Hashem made it. What's you? The spirit. This is the seed of your free will. Ruach is will. Ruach to the man, this is where we build ourselves. With our free will choices. Choosing our priorities. Choosing, when tested, how to behave. That's what gave life to the Second Temple era. And it's no secret, it continues to give life to the Jewish people. It's us. It's got to come from us. The entire First Temple era was filled with miracles. Open miracles. Beginning with the conquest of the land. The 31 kings. Beginning with the walls tumbling down in Yericho. Everything was miracle. The Beis HaMikdash was filled with miracles. It was all initiated by heaven. You know something? We were passive and we didn't do so well. The Second Temple era was all up to us. It was our doing. The Second Temple era is where the oral law was organized. Remember, the Second Temple era, it went from the Great Assembly to the Tanoim, who organized Torah Shabbal Peh. Until that point, it was up to every individual how to teach his children. There was no order. There was no structure. It was the Tanoim that did that. And the Jewish people in the Second Temple era were great. Torah was like never before. So much so that when it was destroyed, it was difficult to understand. They couldn't figure out why. Where did we go wrong? In the Second Temple era, Torah flourished. The Jewish nation was observant. The Jewish nation was growing. Yeah, the destruction came because of the way we treated one another. We're up in heaven, but to one another, it wasn't so great. This is the Second Temple era. The miracle of Chanukah was when we were challenged. Our values were challenged. And the question was, will we rise to the occasion? The Ruach. The epitome of Ruach. The epitome of exercising your free will of choosing is what we call Mesiras Nefesh, being willing to risk your life. The handful of Maccabees that took on the Syrian mercenaries that fought the Hellenists. It was a suicide mission. Few individuals against these mighty armies. They're elephants, the tanks of old. That's what gave life. That's what gave life to the Second Temple era. After the story of Chanukah, which is really the beginning of the era of the Tanoim, it's us. And this is what keeps us going over the generations. Jews that are willing to make every sacrifice for our values, for what we believe in. But I'd like to take this a little further. Because the Second Temple era represents a transition. Parallel to this issue of, is it coming from heaven or is it coming from earth? Isarusa de la Elo, Isarusa de la Sata. The Second Temple era is where prophecy disappeared, and what we got instead was Torah wisdom. Wisdom, Chochmah, took the place of prophecy. The Chacham, the wise man, now replaced the Navi, the prophet. What does Mesiras Nefesh mean? We got to get this straight. At the end of the Second Temple era, there was civil war. The question was, do we fight the Romans or not? The Biryonim, as they were called, those who loved action, they said, we got to fight the Romans. The Romans did not challenge our values. Unlike Greece, they had no philosophy of their own. All they were into is empire building. So long as we would agree to be a puppet state of Rome, we can continue all of our observance. They had no problem with that. The Biryonim said Jewish nationalism is something you give your life for. The rabbis referred to them as the Biryonim, as action seekers. The rabbis in that case were pacifists. They said, no, let's come to some compromise with Rome. It's not our values. All right, so we'll be a puppet state. Mashiach isn't here yet. Mesiras Nefesh is not something that stands on its own. The concept of wanting to even give up one's life for some higher cause could sometimes simply be a desire to go in style. You know? your life for something. Feels great. Be famous. The Mesiras Nefesh of Chanukah, which is the Mesiras Nefesh of the Jewish nation over the ages, is a matter of chokhmah, of wisdom. It is choosing priorities. It is deciding what is more important to you. We say this in our Shema every day. What does that mean? It says the Chinuch, we know that here. It means your love for Hashem should be greater than your love for your own dear life. That means you're making an intelligent choice. It's not a matter of martyrdom where we see martyrdom as a value. It's a matter of choosing. If I have to choose between living but accepting some other religion or giving my life up to my Creator, I'd rather give my life up to the Creator because of my love for Him. There is nothing, not even one's own dear life, that is greater to Him than closeness to the Creator. That's an intelligent decision. That's not being a martyr because it's in style. It's not being a martyr because it feels great. It's a statement of priorities. It's a statement of preferences. We talk of Mesiras Nefesh. One Chanukah Mesiba, back in the Jerusalem Kollel, I spoke all about Mesiras Nefesh. And someone's little kid comes over to me and says, what's Mesiras Nefesh? So I told him, if your favorite toy is muktzah and you don't play with it on Shabbos, that's Mesiras Nefesh. On every level, there's Mesiras Nefesh. It's priorities. What's more important to you? Shabbos or your toy? For a 7-year-old, that's a statement. It's a matter of priorities. We're not choosing between life and death. That's not our Mesiras Nefesh. But we make choices all the time. We have to choose, first on a daily basis. Do you get up for davening or do you sleep in? Sleep is very dear, huh? But what's more dear to you? Taking the time to converse with the Creator or sleeping in? Making intelligent choices. And of course, the more important choices in life. What are you going to do with yourself? What is your future going to be? What do you want to spend the bulk of your time and energy doing? Yes, got to make a living. Is that what you're here for? Is that your number one value? Got to understand the difference between goals and means. Making choices of where you're going to live. I see this all the time. People will make a decision to live somewhere because it's great for their business, even though it's the worst place to bring up their kids. What are you saying? What are you saying? Building your wealth is more important to you than the future of your children? Intelligent choices. What's your next step? Where do you go from here? Not like being in yeshiva, the good life. Where do you go from here? On what basis are you going to choose where you're going, what you dedicate your lives to, whom you marry? You can call it Mesiras Nefesh. This is wisdom. This is living sanely. And this is what keeps us alive. This is what gives the Jewish nation life. This is the menorah. The menorah is wisdom. The menorah is ruach, is spirit. It's choices. It's the essence of man. Making wise choices. That's what it's about. So yes, enjoy your Chanukah. All the foods. Aish.com has a whole discussion of where they really originated. The latkes, the sufganiyot. Dairy is mentioned in the Ramah. But make sure you get the real message. Chanukah is about Jewish survival. And what's Jewish survival all about? Making sane decisions. Making sane choices. Being wise. Not doing what's fun. Not doing what's appealing. Doing what you know is important to you. A sane set of priorities. You do that and include in your list of priorities is seeing to it that every Jew tunes into what it means to be Jewish, to make sane decisions, to live by divine wisdom, to have sane priorities. Make sure that's high on your list of what you're going to dedicate your life to. We got to save the Jewish nation before it's too late. And this is what gives the Jewish nation life. Have a great Zos Chanukah. And really think about this. Make sure you soak in the spirit of Chanukah, the lights of Chanukah. And see to it that your small decisions, your small choices, and your big decisions are made with wisdom. That your ruach, your spirit operates by wisdom. And then, Ozeg Mor, B'shir Mizmor, Chanukah Sam Mizbeach, we could be zocha to the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, and the third time around, it's going to be all from heaven. The building itself is going to be from heaven. Everything is going to be from heaven. After our years of struggling, of keeping it alive with our own spirit and our own choices, it's all going to be a gift from heaven. And then the world and humanity will reach its perfection. Happy Chanukah.